Who's got a question?
These witnesses, good morning. What is so strange?
There were some curious comments.
Who's got a question?
At the forefront of politics.
Our enemy is Trump. He is the enemy. We gotta unite. If we're not a united party, we lose to Trump.
On the front lines of activism.
There's certain fights, if we don't engage, they win. This is a fundamental question of who we are.
And delivering your daily dose of comedy.
Donald Trump, when he had his physical, they had his blood pressure, and mine is higher than his. Oh. And the irony is mine is higher because of him.
From the blue wave.
We flipped. Enough seats to take control of the House. We control the House.
To 2020 and beyond. This is the Dean Obeidallah Show on Sirius XM Progress, Channel 127.
And welcome to the show, brothers and sisters. It is Monday, November 4th. I'm Dean Obeidallah, as always, hoping to be your MBFF. I'm there. I am needy. So today, November 4th, we are 365 days away from the most important election of our lives, which we all know that. But also, 1 year out from the election, big changes here at SiriusXM Progress. Very excited about it. Some great stuff already happened. This morning kicked off the new morning show with Zelina Maxwell and Jess McIntosh, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern Time, so check them out. And excitingly, my friend John Fugelsang will be hosting right after the show every night, 9 p.m. to midnight Eastern Time, live. So the broadcasting day at SiriusXM no longer ends at 9 p.m. It goes to midnight live every night now, 7 a.m. to midnight. Why? Because we're getting ready for 2020. We're getting ready to beat Trump. And then we're getting ready to champion progressive values and policies after that. And my show is changing slightly. Little subtle things. First, Nina's coming back starting tomorrow. And secondly, my show is getting bigger. And I hope better than ever. It's getting bigger. We are now we're going to be, the commercial breaks that were 3 minutes each are now going down to 2 minutes each, effective today. And we're starting 1 minute early. So now there's 4 more minutes per hour of your needy MBFF. Every day, 4 more minutes. That's at least a call. If it's Michael from the Bronx, it's a half a call. Everyone else, it's a call. Maybe 2 calls. I'm not sure. But it's exciting times. We got a lot of stuff to cover. By the way, tomorrow, there's a big elections going on in certain states. I know there's no national elections or congressional, but in certain states, key things. In Mississippi, the race is tight for governor. It's the Republican Lieutenant Governor Tate Reeves versus the Democratic Attorney General Jim Hood. And it's neck and neck. Jim Hood, a Democrat, could win governor in Mississippi. And Trump would freak out because he's been down there campaigning. So if you're in Mississippi, get yourself, get your friends, get out and vote tomorrow for Jim Hood, the Democrat. In Kentucky, another tight race. We could flip a red state to blue. It's Matt Bevin, the Republican governor, who is horrible, versus Attorney General Andy Beshear, whose father had been governor before him, and neck. Again, in Kentucky, if we win this in Kentucky, this is why this is so important. If we flip Kentucky for this, it means that the state is in play next year with Mitch McConnell running for re-election. And that could change his behavior and how he addresses the impeachment trial, which we're going to have a removal trial, I can assure you. Virginia, also, there's no gubernatorial race, but the entire state legislature is up. And you could take the House of Delegates, which is their assembly, and the state Senate. They're both in play. And if we do that, you have a Democratic governor. They can actually enact legislation that helps people in the state of Virginia. And my friend Qasim Rashid was on last week. He's a Democratic nominee in Virginia's 28th district. If he wins, he will be the first Muslim American ever elected to the state Senate in Virginia. So if you live in Virginia, go out and vote tomorrow. And if you live in the 28th or have friends in the 28th district, please tell them to vote for my friend Qasim Rashid. There's 2 Muslims in the state legislature, in the assembly, but never in the state Senate. So hopefully he'll win. Before we get into the real serious stuff, like the transcripts release and a lot of stuff, here's from SNL. And I've got to be honest, if you're Liz Warren, you got to be liking the way they're portraying you on SNL right now. They've got the extremely talented Kate McKinnon playing Liz Warren. And here's a little bit of the cold open, and they're playing her as funny, confident, likable, a little nerdy, a little wonky, sort of like somewhere between the hip mom and the fun person who's completely in control, who's sharp as hell and is funny. You can't get a better depiction. And look, they do have some jokes at her expense. That's the way it should be. It's Saturday Night Live. But some of it was really good. So here is Kate McKinnon as Liz Warren taking questions at a town hall about healthcare. Clip number 1.
Who's got a question?
Hi, I work for Kamala Harris's campaign, but I'm still undecided. I'd like to know, why did it take so long for you to release your plan to pay for Medicare for all?
Yeah. Thank you for bringing up healthcare. That is my despacito. In the last few years, the number one reason families went bankrupt was because of healthcare costs. Even the people who had insurance. It's a tricky little corn maze, right? But when Bernie was talking Medicare for all, everybody was like, oh, cool. And then they turned to me and they said, fix it, Mom. And I'll do it because that's what moms do, right? With Dad, you eat birthday cake for breakfast and then go to Six Flags. And then I hold your hand while you throw up in my purse. Right?
So funny stuff there. I also thought you made a very subtle, funny point there about Bernie Sanders talked about Medicare for all, and no one pounded him asking how you're going to pay for it. Liz Warren brings it up, and she gets pounded, and you can argue women are treated differently. We'll talk about it in the next hour. Jamira Burley's here, a new poll, New York Times, where Democrats just openly said 4 out of 10, 40%, they're sexist. I'm not kidding you. We'll break that down in the next hour. I'm stunned by it. I'm not even kidding you. So today, here's a few things I want to ask. I want us to frame issues in a way that I think are not only better for us, I think they're more accurate. For example, Donald Trump's phone conversation is not a transcript. We should not even call it a summary. From now on, refer to it as Trump's confession. I think that's what it is, and it's better. People get it much better. So if anyone calls here and say Trump's transcript, it's not. It's Trump's confession because he confessed to a crime in it. I'm a lawyer. That's a confession. Boom. Second, stop using quid pro quo. The correct term, because quid pro quo is Latin for something. That's not a crime. You can exchange something for something. I do it all the time. I go to a store, give them $1, and they give me Mentos. I like Mentos. In any event, that something for something is not a crime. Quid pro quo. What's a crime is extortion. Use the terms bribery and use the terms extortion. And I think extortion is actually the more accurate legal term for what Donald Trump did because he used the color of government, the color of law to get something of value for personal use while withholding governmental assistance or governmental programs. That's because the Federal Election Commission has said it is in terms of giving a donation to someone and that an opposition research would be something of value. So to me, extortion is the right word. So today, a couple of things happened. Got to touch on, really important. 4 White House officials supposed to testify today. 4. Including, very importantly, a guy named John Eisenberg. John Eisenberg is a lawyer for National Security Council who works in the White House and who last week we found out from Colonel Alexander Vindman said when he was on the phone call and heard Trump say the stuff about, hey, I want, in Trump's confession, where he said, I want you to go, speaking of the Ukrainian president, investigate Joe Biden and extort aid for it. He goes to Eisenberg, says, I'm really concerned what was in that phone call memo. And Eisenberg's response was not like, hey, that's terrible, we should do something. No, it was like, we're going to put this memo on this secret super server so no one can ever hear it. So he was supposed to testify. His deputy, Michael Ellis, is supposed to testify. Rob Blair, who serves as advisor to Mick Mulvaney, acting chief of staff and every other third thing. I think he's acting chef and baker. And then finally, Brian McCormick, an energy official. What's important is the White House did not let any one of them testify. All four, they blocked them. They obstructed justice. And here's Adam Schiff today, who's chair of the Intel Committee. And by the way, he is the voice we should look to. Adam Schiff right now, under the resolution in the House on impeachment, is the point person. He is doing the investigation. House Intel that he chairs is doing the investigation. Once they finish their investigation, they will draft a report. They will give it to House Judiciary. House Judiciary, that committee headed by Gerald Nadler, will draft articles of impeachment and have a vote. So right now, it's all in the hands of Adam Schiff. So we'll be hearing from him a lot, and I think you can't get a better choice. Former federal prosecutor, understands the media well, effective on cable news. Here's Adam Schiff today on the White House blocking 4 key witnesses. Clip number 2, please.
Good morning. Today we had additional scheduled depositions with the top lawyer for the National Security Council, as well as Mr. Blair from the Office of Management and Budget, and someone who worked closely with Mick Mulvaney. Both of them defied congressional subpoenas and refused to appear for their scheduled depositions, as has been the case with other witnesses who have done the same thing. This will be further evidence of an effort by the administration to obstruct the lawful and constitutional duties of Congress. I would also say, and we expect the witnesses who have been subpoenaed to come in this afternoon at White House instruction also to be no-shows. This will only further add to the body of evidence on a potential obstruction of Congress charge against the president. Indeed, in the Nixon impeachment, there was an article of impeachment based on the obstruction of Congress that itemized each of the subpoenas that the White House had defied. Well, today we have 4 additional subpoenas to add to the list of a potential charge involving the President of the United States and his obstruction of our constitutional duties.
And Adam Schiff, as usual, is correct. The Article 3 of the Nixon impeachment articles passed by the House Judiciary Committee. They were never fully voted on by the House. That's why he was not formally impeached. But Article 3 is exactly that. It outlines how Richard Nixon said no to Congress over and over and over. And so Schiff's view is Donald Trump is just making the articles of impeachment against him worse. My view is, yeah, that's good. But secondly, you got to arrest one of these guys. You've got to arrest one person to send a message. And I've said this before, and the person who is willfully violating a subpoena, who I think should be the test case, is Rudy Giuliani. And the reason I say that is not just because Giuliani is a jerk and we don't like him. It's because Giuliani's not in the White House. He doesn't work in the White House. He's Trump's private lawyer, so he has less protections. He has willfully disobeyed a lawfully served subpoena by Congress. You have to arrest him because you have the inherent power. We had countless members of Congress on this show. I asked it because people kept raising it, one after the other, from Ted Lieu to Jamie Raskin to Andre Carson and others, saying, do you have the inherent power? Do you believe that? And will you use it? And everyone said, we've got the power. We might fine them, maybe arrest them. We're hoping not to. Arrest Rudy. Arrest Rudy Giuliani. You put him in your makeshift jail. I don't care. You lock him in a closet, an office, wherever, whatever it might be. His lawyers will immediately file an order to show cause in federal court to get him released. I get that. But take someone's liberty and let's see how others react. See Trump go crazy. He'd go ballistic. That's what you do. That's what you do. And they're not going to do it because I hear what Schiff is saying, because it will be litigated then. And you would have some order to show cause right away. And meaning you get expedited. You have a hearing maybe that day. And the judge says, you know what? This is a political question. I'm going to decide this way, whatever, but we're going to release Giuliani while it's pending. That's the likely result, not definite. Then it goes to the Court of Appeals, and it's weeks and months and maybe 6 months later. Who knows? Because it truly is a constitutional question. So that's why they're not doing that. But secondly, here, Adam Schiff is making, and I think this is great, making a case why these 4 witnesses matter. Why these 4 witnesses are being withheld for a reason by Donald Trump. And he's trying to get the American public to accept an inference, and that's what it's called when you're dealing with evidence, an inference of wrongdoing here. And Adam Schiff, here's clip 4, he explains it.
You will see in Ambassador Yovanovitch's testimony what a dedicated public servant.
Clip 3. My bad. We're going to play that one next. Clip 3.
Witnesses are significant, and the White House understands they're significant. Based on the testimony the committees have already received, we know that these witnesses, those that were in the law office of the National Security Council, those who worked for Mulvaney either in the Chief of Staff's office or the Office of Management and Budget, are first-hand witnesses to allegations of serious misconduct, both vis-a-vis the suspension of military aid and the effort to use that aid as a lever to get Ukraine to do these political investigations to help the president's reelection campaign, but also in efforts to potentially hide the evidence of the president's misconduct by placing that call record in a classified system that would be beyond most individuals' access, and a system in which that call record did not belong. So very pertinent testimony, very relevant to the other witnesses who have come forward, and we may infer by the White House obstruction here that their testimony would be further incriminating of the president.
In sum, simply put, he wants John Eisenberg, counsel in the White House for National Security Council, to tell him who told you to put Trump's confession in the super secret server. Who told you to do that? And that, we need the answer to that. Did he go to Trump and did Trump say, you better hide that? Did he go to people around him? Pence, because they don't trust Trump. Whoever it is, we have to know that. And that person has to testify. That's why each witness is a gateway to other witnesses and other evidence. So they're stopping that. What happened today of note as well was 2 transcripts were released from closed-door sessions. And the more important of the 2 was Marie Yovanovitch. Marie Yovanovitch is someone that I said is extremely pivotal in this, not for what she did or what she heard. The fact that she became the focal point of not just Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Donald Trump Jr., and the Fox News media world. And that's because they were just helping Trump. They wanted her out really badly. And I think the answer to that question is going to say so much about what is really going on here. And when we talked about this, when the indictment came down of Giuliani's business associates, that it's about money and it's about power. But to remind people, Yovanovitch, you've got Trumpers saying she was an Obama appointee. She's not. She was a career diplomat, 33 years in the State Department. She led U.S. embassies in Kyrgyzstan and Armenia, well known and well respected in diplomatic circles as a person who worked in Republican and Democratic administrations. And she was suddenly fired by the Trump administration this spring after a campaign by various people in the Trump circle to smear her and destroy her. And here's Adam Schiff on her testimony that was released today on the very issue about Yovanovitch. Here's clip number 4. Please.
You will see in Ambassador Yovanovitch's testimony what a dedicated public servant she is. This is someone who served the country with distinction for decades. It is someone who also is one of the first witnesses to this irregular back channel that the president established with Rudy Giuliani and the damage that it was doing to America's national security and foreign policy interests. How it was working in opposition, not in support of U.S. policy objectives. Ambassador Yovanovitch had a well-earned reputation as a fighter of corruption. And she was working with Ukraine to get Ukraine to fight corruption. And so what does this irregular back channel sanctioned by the president do? It seeks to remove someone fighting corruption in Ukraine by employing a vicious smear campaign in which the State Department at the highest levels acknowledged had no merit whatsoever. That smear campaign orchestrated by this irregular channel was successful in removing a U.S. ambassador and tarring her reputation. Of course, you see the president's comments about the ambassador in the call record.
It's really interesting. Yovanovitch is at the intersection of various people who wanted her out. You've got Giuliani's associates, Lev Parnas and Igor Fruman, who are the 2 guys who got indicted, who are funneling money to Republicans. They wanted her out. Rudy Giuliani wanted her out. Donald Trump Jr. slammed her on Twitter as a joker and stuff before she was fired. He wanted her out. Fox Newsers, just repeating what the Trumps were saying, wanted her out. And Donald Trump wanted her out. And it wasn't just in the last month or 2 before she was fired by Trump in May inexplicably, because she had done nothing wrong. And even the person firing her in the State Department said, you did nothing wrong. We were just told the president lost confidence in you. What is really weird is this long campaign to get her out. And I think the answer to the why they wanted her out is going to help us so much understand what Trump and Giuliani and his two buddies who were indicted were really trying to do. And I think it's this base. I think it's this simple. I think it's about money. I think it's about money first and foremost. And I think second, it's about power. And both of them are crimes in the way they're trying to get them. Just to remind everyone, Giuliani's associates get indicted last month, Lev Parnas and Igor Foreman. They, according to the indictment, met with Congressman Pete Sessions, a Republican, last year in May and June 2018. So this criminal conspiracy to get rid of Yovanovitch, they wanted her out so bad. They send these two henchmen, Parnas and Fruman, who, according to the indictment, had no experience in politics, but somebody sent them with a bunch of money to go talk to Republicans, including Pete Sessions. They sit down with Pete Sessions. They say, we're going to give you $20,000. We're going to raise money for you and give a lot of money to Republicans. And what we want in return is you to help us get rid of Marie Yovanovitch, a career diplomat to the Ukraine. That's kind of odd, isn't it? And the odd thing is Sessions, former Congressman Sessions, because he lost re-election, in July, when asked by the media about his dealings with Parnas and Fruman, he said, yes, there's no disputing. He sent a letter. We had the letter. He said that in that letter, he claimed that Yovanovitch was bad-mouthing Trump and should be released. He said about Parnas and Fruman, he goes, quote, I sought their input. So he's not trying to say like they came to him. He sought their input. Why would you seek the input of two guys who, according to the indictment, have no experience in politics? Except for the fact Rudy Giuliani maybe told you to sit with them. Or he's just lying, Sessions, and these guys got a lot of money and the Republican circles heard about them and said, yes, down with them. They'll help you in a tight race, raise your money, because it was a tight race that he lost. That's how tight of a race it was for Sessions. So he sends the letter going, fire her. Now, reportedly, Parnas and Fruman wanted her out because they wanted to sell liquefied natural gas to Ukraine's biggest state energy company. And she was slowing down the process, or at least not helping them in their own perception. Because they wanted her out, and they raised money to get her out. And they got a congressman sent a letter to get her out. So they wanted her out. The question is why? One track is that, simply about money. They had a business deal. She would not help them. What's really interesting about the $325,000 that these two guys who have no experience in politics before this, that they gave to Republicans in this shell company they created, the money came from foreign people. It's not in the indictment, the identity. There's one mention of a Russian businessman. We don't know who was funneling money. During the trial, maybe we'll find that out. Or here there's going to be some cooperation. But then here comes Giuliani. Giuliani, for months in the spring, led a campaign to get her out. So clearly these two guys are working with Giuliani. There's no doubt. Why would these guys, these two, they look like B-level guys in a movie, like extras, would want to get the ambassador Yovanovitch out? One is because they want to make money, but Giuliani, I think, is helping them there because we know Giuliani wants her out. In fact, when she was fired, Yovanovitch, I went back and looked at articles from that time, not new ones, but at that time. And Giuliani was so happy she was fired. He told Newsweek, my interest is really to get everybody to the focus on the conspiracy between the Ukrainians, the DNC, and the embassy, including our ambassador, who was just fired. So he was smearing her, saying she was involved in a conspiracy with the DNC. He goes on to say, Yovanovitch was using her embassy to dig out negative political shit on Trump. He actually said shit to Newsweek. And Manafort, Paul Manafort, and others. And then he claimed to Newsweek that she possibly contributed to the Christopher Steele dossier. So he really wanted her out. And for months before that, Donald Trump Jr. is tweeting, they want her out. Why did Rudy want her out? Was he standing to make money? That's really possible. I think it's likely he's standing to make some money. Something else, though. And here comes to Donald Trump, and here comes the 2020 election, and here comes extortion, my friends. In the testimony today released, she said something none of us knew. She talked about Victor Shokin. Victor Shokin was the prosecutor who Joe Biden said, if you don't fire him, you're not getting the money. Remember in 2016? That's the guy, Victor Shokin. They wanted him out. Biden wanted him out because he was a corrupt prosecutor. The West wanted him out. So Victor Shokin is a key guy. Rudy Giuliani wanted to bring Victor Shokin to America. I can only assume to go on U.S. media and implicate Joe Biden. but his visa was not approved. So Giuliani starts blaming Yovanovitch for not allowing Shokin to come to America to help the 2020 campaign of Donald Trump. So what she testifies is she talked all about how this weird thing that he was trying to get, the visa was rejected, Giuliani trying to override everyone and get it approved. And she testified, quote, and the next thing we knew, Mayor Giuliani was calling the White House as well as the Assistant Secretary for Consular Affairs saying that I, Yovanovitch, was blocking the visa for Mr. Shokin and that Mr. Shokin was coming to meet him and provide information about corruption at the embassy, including my corruption. So you have Giuliani lying here, going over her head, saying Yovanovitch is stopping her, and we need this prosecutor in America to talk about the corruption of Yovanovitch, and that's why he's blocking her. In reality, she was not involved in this at all, and he wanted her here to give dirt in the media on Joe Biden to help Donald Trump. That's why when you hear about the phone call from July 25th, which was the Republicans try to go, well, look, read the transcript, which we call a confession. Nothing's wrong. This has nothing to do with one phone call, folks. That was one dot on a timeline. Listen to this. Was starting last year with these guys, Giuliani's buddies, sitting down with a congressman trying to get Yovanovitch fired so that they can get Shokin to come to America and make some money. That's where this began last summer, funneling money. It continues. They drive her out. So Trump, Giuliani, Donald Trump Jr. are in public driving her out. And she gets fired. And what's also Yovanovitch talks about in her testimony, she feared for her own personal security. And you might go, why? Well, in Donald Trump's confession, the July 25th phone call confession, he said the former ambassador from the United States, the woman, being Yovanovitch, was bad news, adding ominously, she's going to go through some things. She's going to go through some things. What is she going to go through? Well, that scared Yovanovitch, and Adam Schiff asked her about that in her testimony. He said, or the staffer asked her, what did you understand that to mean? Or Yovanovitch said, I didn't know what it meant. I was very concerned. I still am. Question, do you feel threatened? Yovanovitch, yes. Of course you feel threatened. Donald Trump is telling the president of Ukraine, Yovanovitch is bad. She's going to go through some things. What does that mean? Will she be audited? Will she be arrested? Will she be smeared? Will her personal address be doxxed so Trumpers can attack her? I don't know. But clearly Trump is threatening her. So, to sum this up, the most simple place here is you've got bribery, extortion with Donald Trump. One or the other. I'm saying extortion. I'd rather extortion. Forget quid pro quo. It's extortion. That's what I'll use from now on the show. And extortion simply is obtaining property from another with the person's consent under official right. And that is, I'm going to withhold his aid. You give me what I need for my campaign, you'll get your aid. So he's obtaining something he shouldn't have got using government benefits and apparatus. And that's the simple part. The more complex part, and I'll just throw this out here because it's already can be complex. The $325,000 that Giuliani's BFFs, Parnas and Furman, who I should add, according to the lawyer, Ty Cobb, which I know just is a crazy name to throw in here. It's like, and then Babe Ruth showed up. Trump's lawyer, Ty Cobb, who represented these two guys, Trump's former lawyer, he wrote in a letter to the House committee objecting to the subpoena before the indictment, saying they were working as part of the defense of Donald Trump with Giuliani. So they're in the circle here. The question is, where did that money come from? Did that money come from Russia? Did that come from Russian interests who wanted to help Donald Trump get reelected and stop Joe Biden? Because Donald Trump serves the interests of Russia. He doesn't serve our interests, we know that. He serves Russia's interests. That's why he would withhold aid to Ukraine where they need it, which is in our national security and their national security. So that's where we are, my friends. And since we have less commercials, I got to talk longer. I promise not to talk longer every show, but I wanted to break this down because there's a lot to cover. Two big things. One is White House is stonewalling again. That's another article of impeachment, but I really think they should arrest someone, and I'd love to hear what you think about that. Secondly, what do you think about this? Yovanovitch, she feels threatened, and it seems clear to me now when you see this timeline, forget phone calls. This was a campaign from last May and June through a whole year to get rid of Yovanovitch because she stood in the way of Rudy Giuliani, of Parnas, of Furman, and of Donald Trump. and some is about making money, and some is about Trump getting reelected. And all of this, my friends, there's 2 words: criminal conspiracy. That's what the words are. So let's take a break. Come back. I want to hear from you. 866-997-4748. What do you think about arresting people? What do you think about this Yovanovitch and the fact that Giuliani was so happy when she got fired and smeared her and smeared her and smeared her? What do you think the reasoning is? Is there something I'm missing? I'm all ears. Give me a call. I'll be right back.
The Dean Ovidala Show.
Whoever's the next president, we should call him the 45th president of the United States. And this will